Yeah.
Hello, and welcome back to Crestfallen D&D. This will be our first episode of Theurgical Theory.
Theurgical Theory!
Ooh, I'm excited. So this is going to be our new thing where we are working on crafting spells and figuring out making some fun, unique ways of mixing arcane, divine, and whatever. And doing some other cool things. We thought we might share it with you guys because I like to let my players make custom spells and all these other stuff, especially if it has to do with some of their characters, whether it be paradigms or new systems. And we get a lot of creativity and uniqueness in here, and we'd like to share it with you. So we're going to be doing a series called Theurgical Theory where we talk a little bit about this. A couple of our cast members will sit down and we'll talk about some of the things that we had been mulling around in our mind. We're going to be pretty stream of consciousness, kind of try to get a little silly, and that's okay. So don't take things too seriously. Sometimes we'll get into mechanics and crunch, sometimes we won't, and sometimes we'll reach into the bag of mystery to figure out what is going on.
Wait,
here.
bag of mystery?
The bag of mystery. If we really need some inspiration, if we want some randomness to be introduced. Great. So at the table we have...
I'm Adam. In the campaign, I play Zemdak, the gnome artificer. So most of my ideas in this aspect are going to be more magical items and tools and things like that rather than spells. But along the same lines.
Right, but that's still super cool, right? Because, we're still making stuff. And it's still magic adjacent. So
exactly.
I'd say a thought with that. Oh, before I... Wait. Go ahead. Next we have...
I'm Noelle. I play the Ankmut sisters, so both Trisheni Ankmut in the Argent Flame and Misheni Ankmut in the Baker's Dozen. And the spells that I will be, talking about today, mostly except for, our random mystery bag, would be things that both the sisters would kind of have a sense for anyway. So
cool, fun. Right. So on the topic of things that aren't necessarily just arcane or divine, I like to also let my players create, like, if you're a battle master, create new battle maneuvers, things like that. That's really cool. I haven't really thought of something for the other martial classes. Like, what would I let barbarians make?
new rage mechanics, right?
Maybe reckless mechanics or something.
Something.
Maybe like a different type of reckless, rather than granting you advantage, it does something else. Or I have to think on that.
It would almost have to be like subclass specific, like
Yeah,
what your
subclass
does.
Like, I mean, think about Rogue. Rogue has so much going for it already. What does it need? Like, maybe your sneak attack does. You can sacrifice a sneak attack die for some special effect or some bullshit.
Yeah,
right.
Like that. That might be fun, but that might end up being a later episode of Theurgical Theory. But yeah, so today we're working on Artificer and Wizard and Ranger stuff, so that'll be fun. Great. So who wants to hit it off? Who wants to start this off?
You want to go?
Sure. So the things that I sort of prepared for today are Gizmo's ideas for sort of prank items. So these are harmless, cursed, like just low-level wondrous items.
Trisheni is all about helping out with this, by the way.
Like oops stones
For sure.
and what are they called? The rave sticks.
Yeah,
that
rave,
Matt Mercer came up with.
Rave, like glow.
No,
something bones. But anyway,
yes, Cellabones. Cellabones. That's what it was.
But yeah, no, Trisheni will definitely help you in game to make some of these. Because these are.
I am excited.
Yeah.
So I'll start with this one. So I sort of came up with different mechanics because identify doesn't identify a curse. So I have like
at least that's the way I do it.
One layer of what it identifies as, and then the other layer of what it actually does once it's attuned to or worn by the character.
So is it your intention to like get people to attune to this stuff so you can fuck with them?
Yes.
Perfect.
So usually they have like a very minor like helpful ability, but then there's also an underlying like negative ability as well. That,
so like these boots, paw thing.
Boots make you really stable so that you don't fall over as much. Also, they completely glue to the ground so you can't move.
I would imagine these are like platform boots too. Yeah, they're
they're like 12-inch platforms.
You're really stable. Really stable.
12-inch platforms with like a 7-inch heel.
Downside is some people might see you as having a Napoleon column.
God. I love that.
So, when identified, this item shows up as the belt of, or the potion belt of effervescence.
Ooh.
It's a belt that appears to be designed to hold standard potion vials. Once donned, it empowers the wearer to imbibe a potion that's been equipped to the belt as a free action on their turn. However, during any charisma-based skill check, the wearer releases spontaneous flatulence, granting a negative D4 to that check.
To every check?
Every charisma-based
The
check.
charisma. Oh, right, because they stank and they did something bad.
The effervescent belt makes you fart as you're trying to persuade or do whatever you're doing. So
That
The belt
is-
of flatulence.
the true name is the belt of flatulence.
That I'm not. You're gonna have a tough time topping that for the rest of this episode because that's probably one of my favorite items ever.
Yeah.
Like so what's the benefit? Is that it makes you smell good?
No.
No, you can drink a potion as a free action.
Right. So you're able to just.
That's
a potion
big.
belt.
That's huge. Okay. So that's huge.
Yeah.
So that the benefit kind of outweighs the benefit.
There's an
Like a
actual like
stank.
potion belt or something like that.
Oh, there is
There's a real item that does that.
in the DM's guide.
yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
I essentially just added the writer of
Yeah, I think
fart.
also one of Matt's subsidiaries
So
for
yeah,
the game
it is
actually had a
big.
feat where you could do that too.
It is kind of big as far as action economy goes,
Right.
but it's only going to be used as often as you would use a potion.
Right.
So it's not game breaking. It's helpful as any magic
So,
item
but
is.
any check in
But
the
any
entire
charisma
time?
based check, like as you're focusing on
take it
trying to probably. Well, so that's the point. Like they're cursed items, so they're supposed to be harder
to take off.
to take off.
Right.
Once you lock in.
Can we? I mean,
So
I'm just
like
wait.
every
wait,
time
wait,
you take
wait.
it off, you shit yourself.
No.
So yes, there will be a
Maybe,
penalty.
Yeah. I'm almost imagining your stank cloud kind of follows you and keeps it on you. The more that you have it, right?
You
It's like
crop
you're
dust everywhere you go.
It doesn't disperse.
right.
You just have a bubble of
Yeah.
fart around you.
And that is actually what keeps it on. It makes it harder to break off.
Like when you wear like latex pants and you just have those farts, so the fart just keep building up.
Yep.
That's a fan. So it doesn't like there's no what's the word when gas disperses to what's the scientific term of when liquid disperses what's the word from one container to another? It's called no, there's a specific term.
Osmosis?
Yeah, it's kind of like osmosis.
In vaporization, are you
Yeah,
thinking
what-
of
Like a diaspora of gas molecules, but I can't remember. But anyway, like it's so it refuses to do that and like reduces parts per million.
Yeah.
And it stays at the same density, but just clings to you. That's amazing.
So then when you take off the belt, it all just releases at once. And it's this,
And
it
then so
creates like a,
it turns the whole
what's
room
that other
stanky.
spell? There's like a
Ooh.
cloud kill.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you leave it on too long, it builds up essentially like
And
a
you
cloud
basically
kill.
cast cloud kill.
That would be
That's-
that's actually kind of a boon though, right?
Yeah.
Like
But
Well,
you,
you
get,
set it
you
on
would also
yourself.
be-
you set it on
Yeah.
yourself, and you don't get to determine allies and everything. If anybody who's within you takes the damage.
So if you realize it right away and take it off, there's only one
Right.
part in there. But if you leave it on too long, like that builds up further and further, and then
Right.
yeah, it eventually, after so many checks, it counts as a cloud kill cast on yourself.
Right.
Right.
So it's like after like 10 charisma checks, you just release cloud kill.
right, or maybe it's like every charisma check that you have to make while you're wearing that. That's one level of like getting up to that spell, or
I'm just
something,
imagining,
like, or
uh,
1d4 or 1d6 of just stank damage. You know,
I'm imagining Slimo from Ghostbusters, but in like gaseous form that just is around you, and he's so inflated that he's just like, "Rrr," he just has you within his form, and you're just walking around like that. That's amazing. Okay, all right. So, Noelle, it's your turn then. What you got?
Well, certainly not as funny as that. That was a gas. But
Oh god.
Dun-dun.
here for the dad jokes, guys. So I have, we all know and love Booming Blade, right, guys? But what about Blooming Blade?
I love how much you're addressing the audience.
So, blooming, think of it as like a blade that blooms, right? So, rough idea, you have to cast it on a melee weapon, and flowers bloom over the hilt, and the blade itself becomes kind of this green color. And then upon a hit of a creature, vines actually erupt from the blade itself, and actually the point of contact with that creature, and it tries to grapple and restrain it. This would be a concentration spell.
So, like, if you drop concentration, the grapple or restraint stops.
Correct. So it's almost like the more...
So is it attached to you, or does it, like, attach to the root itself to the ground?
It's almost like if you think about a plant hitting you or something, it's like infecting you with its spores, almost like the sakura blossoms do.
Kind of, yeah.
Maybe later on the creature might try to break free, but if more hits are made with the blade, it's getting more of that, like...
More
damage.
vines grow onto.
Right, so it's the DC becomes higher.
So rather than being bound to the weapon itself that you're casting you just every slap or hit of the weapon, it causes plant matter to erupt from that location and try to root that creature into the ground.
Exactly,
it's
and
like
bind them and...
What the fuck is the name of that guy? The Central Park garden dude with the green thumb. What was his name? The gnomish elf dude with the green thumb?
No idea.
Central Park, dude?
Yeah, was this old movie, this old animated movie?
No, I don't remember.
Green thumb, animated
So it's sort of like a mixture of Booming Blade and like Ensnare and...
The Troll in Central Park. Nobody watched that?
I vaguely remember that.
This guy?
Nope.
This guy, Troll in Central Park.
Yeah, I do remember
Maybe.
that.
He had a green thumb, and he put his
Maybe.
green thumb on things, and it pretty much casted plant growth, but like immediately.
Yeah.
So it's like, every slap of it is like, vines.
Yeah.
That's cool. So each hit might add to like the DC of
the
how...
DC of the grapple check, which
Cool.
of course that creature at the end would try to break every single time.
would have to use their action to do so.
Right. So it's, so,
it's like Earthbind or Ensnare, but it is a concentration check and an enchantment spell upon your weapon.
Yeah.
So, but it's only melee weapon.
It's like a smite.
Correct.
Like a smite that you put on your weapon.
Yeah, it's like an ensnaring
Sort of all of
smite.
those sort
Yeah.
of...
Ensnaring smite is a thing,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Ensnaring or smear or
Ensnaring smite, I think, is a thing.
okay.
Let me double check. I could be wrong.
But instead of
I got the
actually
book right
doing
here.
damage, it's just grappling you, making it even
Ensnaring
harder.
strike is a level 1 conjuration from the player's handbook, actually.
Yeah.
Next time you hit a creature with a weapon attack before the spell ends, a writhing mass of thorny vines appears at the point of impact.
Well,
So
shit, guys.
the spell already exists.
You know
the target
what?
must succeed on a strength saving throw or be restrained by the magical vines until the end of the spell ends. Look at this.
But this is different because the DC keeps getting more and more as you do it.
Right, so you're kind of like reflavoring this because, a creature restrained by the vines or one that you can touch on the creature can use its action to make a strength check against your spell save DC.
Right, and we could almost like flavor it with Sakura Blossoms have been plaguing Miss Shenny and the rest of the Baker's Dozen.
Cool.
So like maybe it's learning how to control that pollen a little bit and so maybe they even become almost charmed.
And it just does weapon attack too, not melee weapon attack.
Yeah.
And it's only available to rangers.
Well, that's
So that
Miss
makes
Shenny's.
So it's like
Butter.
a shot with your bow, you hit something and it pins it down.
Yeah.
Right.
Ensnaring
So it's
strike.
kind of, it's
but
that, but it's
Blooming
like
Blade I
tweaking
like.
it differently.
Yeah.
Blooming Blade I like because of the compounding cumulative effect of increasing its DC.
Right.
Right.
Especially if you have extra attack, boom, boom.
Right.
That could be devastating. I like that a lot.
Right, because you could almost imagine the hands being bound and then the feet being bound, and that's even harder, right? Something like that. Anyway.
Yeah, we'll go into full viney bondage at that point. Okay, up next. You know what? I think it's my turn. I'm gonna pull from this little bag here. See what we
Mystery
got.
bag.
Okay, mystery bag. I'm gonna have to make one on the spot. Here we go.
So 2 or 3, I think.
I'm still gonna start with 2. Let's start it. So we've got Blasphemous. I like how you cut these in these little design scissors.
It was the available scissors. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm not sure how to present this. Blasphemous Kumquat. I don't know. So, okay, immediately, Noelle, you and I were talking about this last night about gold balls. Remember the X-Men gold balls?
Yeah.
Who his ability is to just shoot out gold balls from his chest that go point, 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 like giant table tennis balls that just do kinetic damage, which is the dumbest fucking thing. But like eventually,
Mark.
Hey, gold's heavy.
but like they're not made of gold. They're like,
They're eggs.
but they're actually eggs. They figure out either that they're actually eggs and they're kind of like rubbery, and he could combine them with a bunch of other mutants' powers in order to like birth people in his eggs in the amniotic fluid.
Weird.
Yeah, it's so weird. To the point, like, none of the X-Men can die because they can just be rebirthed in these eggs. It's weird as shit. Anyway, so I'm kind of thinking along the same lines as Blasphemous Kumquat. So I think Paladin or Cleric spell.
Right.
Summon.
Ooh, Oathbreaker. Paladin.
I'm thinking Path of the Guardians.
Okay.
Or Ancient Guardian, or whatever the one that it has to do with like the nature one.
Yes.
I think it's like the Ancient Guardian. What is that? Oath of the Ancients. Oath of the Ancients. That's right.
Yep.
And then and one of their spells is that they can summon a fruit, and the fruit is given, or as a gift, it can be implanted to kind of like do necrotic damage to those that eat it, because the blaspheming nature of it causes the god that whatever they worship to smite the individual who eats the fruit.
Interesting.
So, like, think of like the apple from Adam and Eve.
Right.
Like
but
original
it's
sin,
so like instead of good berry giving you health, maybe it's like you eat it.
Like, so it's kind of a poison, but it's not poison. It's necrotic damage. It's
That's
like
a really sour
being
kumquat.
smited through being tricked to eat this kumquat or this fruit. So it could be, it would be something that you could swap out for somebody's fruit, and then they eat it, and then they take smite damage. And so you just roll your smite damage, and if they're undead, they take extra damage.
Right.
So it could be radiant damage, it could be necrotic, depending on obviously the type of paladin you are, that kind of thing. But I believe it should also be able to be used by a cleric as well, so they could also do some smite damage too.
Right,
Blasphemous Kumquat.
And especially if like you're hosting, you're like, oh, take part of this fruit, and
Right.
you know,
It could be a way to test those that are unworthy.
are you worthy of my fruit?
Right. Yeah. Are you worthy of my fruit? And on that, we're gonna move on. All right, Adam, got another one for me.
How about the mime's face paint?
Ooh.
Okay.
So identifies as the makeup of Quishit.
How do you say it?
I typed the word out. I don't know how to pronounce it. Anyways, once fully applied, it essentially like you unwillingly attune to it as it curses you, right? Over the course of an hour. The wearer is silent to everyone but themselves. So essentially just a targeted silence spell is cast upon the wearer themselves.
So you can hear yourself talk,
Yes.
but nobody else can.
So it's like you would switch it out for someone's like disguise kit, and when they painted something, after an hour of wearing that disguise, it would turn them into a mime.
What a horrible, horrible trick to play on somebody. Like if you painted their face while they were asleep, and then everybody just started ignoring them
Right.
because nobody could hear them.
Let me throw this one in there with it. I call these the boots of fashion, or the narcissist's folly. So it's a fancy pair of boots that can automatically reshape themselves to what the wearer thinks is like the height of fashion.
Okay.
Once every 10,000 like random number of steps, a small pebble is conjured inside of the boots underneath the wearer's heel.
I'm sorry if I'm imagining both
torture.
of these together at the same time, and I'm like, oh. But you know, obviously, I'm not making any words as that person. That's really
Like,
funny.
or you're like walking on a trail and you've got the mind face paint on, and you're like, "Hold on, guys, I gotta get this pebble out of my shoe." And they just keep walking because they don't fucking hear you.
Right.
That might be a personal experience for me, but I'm like, "Hold on, guys, I gotta tie my shoe. Hold on, I got a pebble in my shoe."
You just
and
keep
they're like,
walking.
and they just keep going. It happens to me all the
Right.
time.
You'd have to do like,
Yeah.
you know,
You take the pebble out of your shoe, you chuck it at your eyes.
Right. Would the pebble make noise though?
I think to make it worse, that is that every time you open your shoe to try to find the pebble, it's not there.
It disappears.
It's gone.
Oh,
It's not there
God.
anymore. So you put the shoe back on, and then you're okay for like 2 minutes, and then it comes back. And you're like, where the fuck is this pebble? So you get constantly compoundly frustrated by this
I
thing.
feel like at the end of the day or the week or whatever, you would have to after having that so many times, you'd have to roll an insanity check because
Something like that, or I would make you roll disadvantage on concentration checks
God.
because you're just so distracted by this pebble in your boot.
right.
I love that. These are so evil, Adam.
I've got another cream
Okay.
that's basically Nair. I called it no hair cream.
No.
So it identifies as the cream of charm, and once applied, it acts just like a normal cosmetic lotion. But anyone smelling its scent smells like one of their most pleasant memories. Like you smell fresh baked bread or whatever it is. And again,
scent of your mother's perfume.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah.
After an hour, you unwillingly become attuned to it and it curses you. Every evening when you go to sleep, you have to make a con saving throw. If you fail that con saving throw, all of your body hair falls out.
All of it, not just where you applied it.
Only regrowing after a week.
Ooh.
So dwarves would hate that. They have to start from the beginning, or it all comes back at once.
No, so it all starts growing like it normally would grow. At the speed.
So you don't
it would
get to
normally
regain
grow.
your whole beard. You have to start growing your beard from scratch.
From scratch.
But you would lose your head of hair as well. And for our furry friends like Fearbulgs and Kenra
And bugbears.
Oh God, you'd have like naked mole rat people running around.
What's the name of that?
The Shaloitsqueedle dog.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But I mean, it only like once it then makes you lose your hair, you would have to reapply it again for it to curse you again. So
it
only
you're
happens
gonna end up being a traveling ticker who's like, hey, have fun with that one.
sell this to like random people on the road. And
Yeah.
You just like live so Schadenfreude vicariously.
Yeah.
Oh my
Zemdek
God.
the Schadenfreude snake oil salesman.
Oh my God. But the thing is, like, his stuff works. It's just, he just
Right.
purposely puts bad shit.
Yep.
It's not like unintended negative effects. It's absolutely intended negative effects just to fuck with you so he can read about it in the paper later. Oh, wow.
I've got one last one.
Okay. Last one.
Well, no, I've got more. But the pet rock, so it identifies as the rock of curiosity. Once you have held it in your possession for an hour, it curses you essentially. And it will follow you around no matter what you do to it. You destroy it, it comes back. You throw it, it rolls back to you. Like it follows you around for the rest of until you like remove curse or dispel magic or whatever you're gonna do.
What about like magma, man? Like what if you toss that into a
It would be destroyed, but then
Okay.
like when you were sleeping the next night, it would just like conjure next to you.
Oh, like a bunch of dust would form
Yeah.
into a rock right
Correct.
next to you.
So this one has a good feature to it though. So if you cast the identify spell on it 5 times while it's attuned to the same person,
Who does that? Who casts Identify more than once?
or if you study it close enough to trigger an investigation check on it, right?
Sure.
If you're studying it after you do that 5 times, it becomes a stone of luck, granting you the luck
+1.
feat.
Oh, the lucky halfling feat or the lucky feat?
The luck feat. So 3 times a day you get the
That's
the luck feat.
powerful. That's
But who
arguably-
identifies something 5 times?
I mean, if
Nobody
it
does
keeps
it.
coming back to you after you've thrown it into a pool of magma, well,
Right.
you might.
you love me, and I will make you
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, why the
So
fuck?
it's sort of along to like it acts like a curse thing that's just
comes
gonna
like a bad
piss
penny.
you off, right?
Yeah.
But if once you have it for long enough, all of a sudden now it's this boon to you.
Like it's been with me, thick and thin, everything.
It's when you turn
Yeah.
a bad penny into a lucky penny.
Yep.
Fun. I like that. All right, you're up.
I'm imagining again, just googly eyes on the pet rock, too, just cause,
Like you wake up and it's pee. It's like there's a puddle of pee that's sitting in.
right? Or
Next
if it
to your
grows a
head.
beard, it's like actually
It
a little.
grows a beard.
Well, it grows a beard and it's
It's
a little
moss.
moss. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Little
Exactly.
moths. I love the idea of pet rocks actually just pissing themselves. It's pretty great. I love that.
Just as long as they don't cry,
Oh God.
right?
I
Right?
have to bring some such a downer.
I'm sorry.
It's your turn.
All right.
That's punishment.
As punishment, well, okay. I think, taking the idea of chromatic orb a little bit more, right? And like fine tuning that. It's not just chromatic orb and you're able to change it to whatever element you need, but rather creating ball lightning. It's a really interesting phenomena. I look it up if you guys haven't, but
No,
it's,
teach us. What's the phenomenon?
so ball lightning, it is actually lightning that is in a ball-like shape, and it can move around just kind of randomly too. And there's been incidents reported within airplanes and stuff before, but pretty rare. But the spell idea is at least creating ball lightning, and it would not be very large. Like, think about a soccer ball that you could kind of kick, but with like lightning bolt or something, you're going for straight shot of something. Ball lightning, maybe on your turn, you can command it to go exactly where you want. You would, and up to, I don't know if we want to say 100 feet, 300 feet, wherever you want it to go. It would be a concentration spell, but anytime that it passed through a person, that is grounded.
5 feet of a person.
Right. Or, yeah. Because
I'm thinking like it's basically a flaming sphere, but a ball of lightning.
But it's only like a foot big.
Right. But it's still that whole thing about it still damages things within 5 feet of it because obviously things will arc.
Right.
Sparks shoot out.
Exactly. Yeah. So
I like that. And then it could be, so it would be.
So like your
is it
turn.
Dexterity saving throw for flaming sphere?
I
think it is because
so.
fire is usually dexterity saving.
Right, but this is lightning, which
it's also dexterity saving throw.
Which is also dex, yes.
So that's why lightning bolt and fireball do the same thing. They're just in a line in a ball.
Right.
So like once you cast it, you can cause it to zip around, but then subsequent turns, let's say it's similar to call lightning where you're calling it for a minute. You call it for a minute, but you can at least just tell it, okay, I need you to zip along here for 100 feet or something, and you can tell it to take a certain path, and that
you can give it a programmable path.
Yeah, so like that's your action.
Just set it free.
So it would like have its own initiative, or it would do that.
I mean, it's up to you. I mean, I think it could be really interesting. It could almost be like a lightning familiar that you're concentrating on, or it could be, just something like call lightning where you use your action to call it back down, but you're telling it where to go, the path more so for it to follow for that turn.
I like that idea. I like giving it a programmable path, which means even if the topography of the battlefield changes and people move around, it still follows that path. And if it moves through something, it's cool. So I would say I would limit to like a path of like 80 feet or some shit like that, whatever, depending on like what level you cast it at. Maybe.
Right. Maybe it's like,
maybe you can upcast it, maybe you can't.
Yeah.
And then I would say like, okay, and then you would draw something on the map. And be like, this is the path it's going to take, whether it be sidewindy or straight shot.
For the next round, right? Like, is that how you would do it? Or would you do more like...
well, if you set a path,
overall?
That's the path it would go, right?
Yeah.
So however far it can move, it would move that much in a turn, and then the next turn it would finish the path.
I would say, I would make it roll its own initiative on that. So it doesn't have an action, it doesn't have bonus action, but that way it's not happening immediately when you cast it. Because when you immediately cast it, you can cast it next to something, and anything that whose turn so same rule with Flaming Sphere. Anybody who so
Flaming Sphere
their
you
turn,
ram people with,
or you can ram it into people.
Yep. And I think it's
a bonus action to do so.
Yeah, bonus. Yeah, for Flaming Sphere it is.
Yep, that might be your spiritual weapon. Right. But yeah, I think rather than having the ability to ram it, it would be once you summon it, anything that you summon it on or within 5 feet of it at the start of its turn would have to make dexterity saving throw. Then it rolls its own initiative, and then you put a programmable path, and on that initiative is when it moves. And anything that it passes through or comes within 5 feet has to roll dexterity saving throw. Potentially hugely devastating. So it's like Spirit Guardians, but it makes things roll saving throws while it's moving, which because you could potentially hit everybody on the battlefield or something.
Right, exactly. Which is
make it a higher level spell.
Of course, it's not going to be a first level by any means. It would be like at least third level because call lightning itself is
fifth. Just because about how even while it's moving, it does damage.
Right, because I mean that would be happening with this.
Yes,
you could even add a feature to it where, like, at the end of its path, you forcefully end the spell, and essentially it like thunder waves on the end point of its programmed.
Oh, and like detonates.
Yeah,
right.
That could be fun.
Yeah, that could be a lot. That's a really good idea. I like that.
And once it does its program path, it detonates. Yeah.
Right. So you could almost do it like, you can decide how many rounds it would go. And once you do that, it's going that many rounds. Right. And then it detonates.
And it's going to blow up wherever you told it to blow up, no matter what's in the area when it happens.
Which is wild.
Yeah. So I would think of like 5th, 6th level spell.
Yeah.
But
totally.
but totally fun and unique too, because it takes some elements from other spells and does some new things.
Cool.
Okay, let's do another one. What do we got here for? What else you got? Do another one.
Another one. you know, both the sisters are from the desert. So let's do a little sandstorm action. I'm not going to sing the song, so copyright issues, but exactly. That's all you can get out. That's all you can get out. But I'm almost imagining, especially for Trisheni, she would start dancing to actually call this spell forth. And it would be kind of in that fashion as far as just 90s sort of trance spells, but trance dancing. But you can almost think about like a 30-foot radius or something like that with sand coming through. It would make it difficult terrain. It would make it difficult to see things as well. And if you stayed in there, maybe it's something similar to spike growth, with it being like 1d4 damage per how many turns, like either how many turns
so
or how many feet you have to move out of it or something, because sand's really biting. You know?
Yeah. So it'd be kind of a combination between like spike growth and fog cloud.
A little
where
bit,
it's making things heavily obscured, and also it could even be those where those would have to kind of like ice sleet storm too, where you have to roll a dexterity saving throw or be knocked down by from the gale force winds.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you could be taking
bludgeoning damage or something.
Yeah, some like bludgeoning or piercing damage, like just like spike growth, a D4 for every square that you're moving through.
Right.
Yeah, you know, we might even tie it to, we could get like super crunchy with it and tie it to your Constitution modifier.
Right.
And be like, the higher Constitution modifier is, the less damage you're taking from the sand, but the lower it is, the more, which is potentially really bad because some people have some low con modifier.
Yeah.
And that means they have less health, which means they're going to take more damage. So maybe not that.
maybe it's just like a luck check then at that point, right? Like you do, like if you only have 0 or less as a modifier, or whatever it is.
Or we can make them do con saving throws against your spell save DC.
Right.
That makes more sense.
That's easy. That makes
That's
sense.
easy. Yeah. Con saving throw against your spell save DC, and if they fail, for every 5 feet they move, they at least take 1d4 because they're still within, right?
Right.
And for every 5 feet more, they take a d4. It's completely like heavily obscured, so it's like fog cloud, and they also, if they move more than, let's say, 10 feet, they have to make a dexterity saving throw. So they can be cautious. Or if they move more than half of their movement speed. Well, it's heavily obscured, so it's also difficult terrain.
Right.
So
they're going to be staying in there for a little while anyway with that too, right? Because, or longer than they would intend.
That's powerful. Difficult terrain, heavily obscured, damage while you're moving.
That's why they do D4s instead for Constitution.
There's got to be something. Well, I don't think do sandstorms knock you over?
If there's gale force,
they could. Yeah, we're gonna have to workshop it one a little bit because I don't want to put too many things on that. Like maybe it knocks you over. It's difficult terrain. You take damage. You can't see anything.
Maybe it's upcasting it, right? Like maybe if it
gains an additional effect for every 2 levels you cast it higher.
So Wall of Sand is a currently available wizard spell, for example.
Right.
That 4th level. It's similar to Wall of Fire, but as far as like how much you can go, I believe, but the effects are a little bit different. So then maybe it's, 4th level to begin with just obscured, 5th or 6th level, then it goes to difficult terrain. Then above that also does damage or something, right?
No, I think that's a good idea. Like you, rather than making the effects more intense, you get to add more effects onto it by upcasting. I think that's cool. I like that a lot.
Right, and it would still, instead of being a wall, would be an area of effect, like a cylinder or sphere or whatnot. So
okay, I'm going to delegate now that Adam, you're gonna have to pull from the mystery bag for the next one.
I was gonna say for that spell, like you could also go a different direction, right? You could go environmental with it. So like call lightning works better when you're outdoors.
Right.
So this spell
Sandstorm works better when you're in a desert.
Right.
Ooh,
if you're in the desert or like on a beach or somewhere where there's a lot of sand, you could add rider effects based on your environment.
Maybe it does more damage. Maybe
How
it actually
difficult
does the
it is.
damage. Or
I like that. I
like
that's
that
a
too.
really good idea.
John?
Like
John, the Philly
John.
Yeah.
Philadelphia John, Jawn.
Yeah, John. It's like a thing. It's a generic noun.
And blue-footed booby.
Maybe one more
Blue-footed
so
booby
you
John.
could see. So you could
No, you got
No?
blue-footed booby John.
I got nothing for John.
It's a generic noun. You could use it for anything. It's a wild card noun. So make your spell generic, being like it turns anything into a blue-footed booby.
Right.
It has something to do with a blue-footed booby, but it's got to be like a target or an object or
Yeah, so it's like animate object, but it turns into like a spectral blue-footed booby.
Ooh.
So you turn your pocket watch and it sprouts blue feet,
Yes,
wings, but it can't
And a bill.
fly, and a bill.
and it quacks
And it
very
quacks.
loudly.
Do blue-footed boobies quack?
No.
I think they make some sort of chortle.
Yes.
But it can be like the Blue John is your name for
The Blue
for
John.
The Blue John, yeah.
Speaks in a really annoying Pennsylvanian accent.
Yeah.
Oh no! Sorry. So you could cast it on any person too, any object or person,
Oh,
not just
God.
any
Yeah.
object. So you could do it on a person, and
Do their feet
Be
turn
like
blue?
polymorph.
their feet just become blue-footed booby feet.
It's like a limited polymorph, right? And that you just
Yeah, you just get blue-footed booby feet.
that's the only effect you can make it do is give it blue-footed.
But you have to like roll a d20, and depending, or like a d100 or something, and depending on what you get, a different part of your anatomy becomes
A blue-footed
that
booby.
of a blue-footed booby.
So you could
Which is why it's so generic and like
Yeah.
blue-footed booby Joan.
yeah.
That's so stupid.
It's fantastic.
It's fantastic. Great. All right, guys. Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you for joining us for our first episode of Theurgical Theory. Well, stay tuned for more episodes, guys. Do like and subscribe. Check out our channel. We've got a bunch of other stuff there. So stay tuned. And we'll see you next time. Stay safe out there.